And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophets. Out of Egypt I called my son. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious and gave orders to kill all the boys of Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Once again, Lord, I ask that the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts bring glory and honor to you. Amen. So there was a Jewish lady named Mrs. Rosenberg. Many years ago, she was stranded late one night at a fashionable resort, one that didn't admit Jewish people. The desk clerk looked down in his book and said, "Sorry, there's no room. The hotel's full." The Jewish lady said, "But your sign says you have vacancies." The desk clerk stammered and said, "Curtly, you know that we don't admit Jewish folks here. Maybe you should try the other side of town." And Mrs. Rosenberg stiffened noticeably, and she said, "I'll have you know that I converted to your religion." And the desk clerk said, "Oh yeah? Well, let me give you a little test. How was Jesus born?" And Mrs. Rosenberg replied, "Well, he was born to a virgin named Mary in a little town called Bethlehem." "Okay, good. Tell me more." "Well, he was born in a manger." "That's right," said the hotel clerk. "And why was he born in a manger?" And she said, "Valerie, because a man like you that had the hotel wouldn't give a Jewish lady a room for the night." Luckily, we don't segregate like that anymore, at least in the United States. But there are places in the world that there's such separation. There's also an opportunity for us to share our faith with others around the holiday season. But we have to know the best approach. Maybe that's not the right approach there. You see, Advent season, we talked about being prepared for the second coming of Jesus, and we remembered his coming as a baby in a manger on Christmas Eve. And if we're preparing for a disaster, will we not look out for our neighbors and our friends and family to make sure others are prepared also? When we look at the Christmas story, we talk about a baby in a manger. We talk about the angels and the wise men. They all came to visit. It's told like a fairy tale, right? Where everyone's happy and they're singing. But if we take a closer look at what truly takes place, we can see Mary and Joseph had to go on another long journey at the end of her pregnancy. The journey wasn't in a nice, warm, comfortable car where they stopped overnight at the hotel to have a chance to take a hot shower and rest. They traveled once again, most likely on a donkey, having to take enough food for both of them and the animal. They probably laid down to rest on the dirty, cold ground just to get a few hours sleep as they traveled. They'd already done the 70 miles from where they were to get to Bethlehem. And that journey could be done in probably 5 days if you're in good shape, but most likely took them 7 to 10 days in Mary's shape to get to Bethlehem. Then when they arrived, there was no place for them to stay because many people had returned for the census. Then there was the Levitical laws that would keep people from wanting a woman who was getting ready to deliver a baby to be in their house. And someone eventually allowed them to stay in the stable with the animals. You know, we sing "Away in a Manger." This wasn't a pretty sight. Once again, it's not an ideal situation. Even though we envision this clean manger with these animals that are beautiful in the nativity scene. Yes, the angels came with the shepherds and the wise men showed up to witness what took place because this was the greatest event that ever took place. And even with the miracle of Christmas, the enemy was at work. Herod feared the prophecies and was trying to figure out how to keep them from coming true because he was the king. And he didn't want anything or anyone to interfere with that. Herod had heard from the wise men. They must have had a caravan with many servants as they traveled. And he called them in, he invited them in, showed them hospitality, just so he could get information from them. But the wise men were warned in a dream not to report back to Herod, just as Joseph was warned in a dream about Mary's pregnancy. And once again, that he should take Mary and baby Jesus to Egypt. This beautiful picture of the Christmas story has much more depth than we often take time to acknowledge. Joseph and Mary, they had already traveled for the census, and now they can't return back home to their family and friends. They were warned by God that they were in danger. And they had to go to a foreign land not knowing when or if they could return. Can you imagine trusting God enough to get up and move today? To uproot your family, to uproot who you are, because God asked you to go. What faith it must have taken to trust God that much. Joseph and Mary knew that this child was special and that God had a plan. They were willing to do what God asked of them once again. How different would our individual lives be if we had enough faith to hear and then listen in obedience to what God has to say to us? I mean, we sometimes have a hard time when someone's sitting in our pew, right? We've been tricked into thinking that the things of the world are more important than our trust in God. Yes, God can and does use us where we are, but do you notice that most people throughout the Scriptures, when they encounter God in the Bible, that their life changes dramatically? They don't attempt to fit God or Jesus into their lives. They change their lives to fit into God's plan. The fishermen drop their nets. The disciples all leave their jobs to follow Jesus. And they do use their talents as they travel with Jesus. Yes, they do need reminded from time to time that God is bigger than the problems of the world. And yes, they had to be told that their personal agendas had no place. And yes, God does use many people in the places where they are. We just need to be reminded sometimes that God should come first. And I'm sure that Joseph continued to do his carpentry work as he traveled to Egypt using the skills that he already had. We do claim that Jesus was a Jewish carpenter, right? He would have picked that up from Joseph. So as we end another year and we look forward to a new year, there might have been unexpected turns, and there might still be unexpected turns in the future. There'll be decisions that have to be made, some because of circumstances around us, some because life has opportunities. But we need to remember that God has sent His light into the world to light our path. Choices in life are not always easy. Sometimes both outcomes can be good. Joseph and Mary had to choose to make. They had that choice to make. Okay, we're going to go back home, or I'm going to listen to this dream. They chose to be obedient to God, even though the outcome was now we have to go to another place that we don't know. We don't always have the privilege of having God speak to us in a dream. How great it would be if He did that for us, right? We don't often know that the choice that we're going to make is the right choice until after the decision is made and maybe even some time has passed. And we can say, yeah, that was the right choice. Or sometimes, man, that wasn't the right choice. We always have another opportunity, given another day. You might even find out, man, that wrong choice now has consequences. But yet, when we have faith, we can pick back up and pursue the path that's ahead of us. We can't allow ourselves to be stuck. We have to remember that we are given hope. And all of this is part of the free will that's been given to us. If God continues to light the path, even if we stray for a while. So as we gather this last time of this year in anticipation of what God has in store for us in the next, I want you to continue to dream dreams. I want you to listen for the voice of God. And I want you to think beyond what you've ever thought before. Remember that God, when He calls us, He equips us. What is it that God is asking of you in your life? What is it that God is asking of us here in State Line, the church? We don't know what the future holds for the United Methodist Church. But God is still going to have a purpose for us, for you here in State Line. So as we close today, I'm going to close with a prayer for the Ephesians that Paul wrote. So appropriate. Shailene pointed this out, was in her devotions yesterday. It says, "For this reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derive its name. I pray that out of His glorious riches that He may strengthen you with power through His Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and how long and how high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power, not that is at work within us, according to His power that is at work within us. Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can imagine, according to His power that is at work within us, to Him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.